Hello everyone and welcome back to another video. So this video we're going to pull upon a couple of techniques we've learned in previous videos, and we're going to be using VBA to help us create a very basic calculator. So what we'll be doing is we'll be using the input box method that we looked at in a previous video to be able to gather two pieces of information, or more specifically two numbers from the user, and we'll be building a basic calculator that will add those two numbers together, and it will then paste the result into our Excel spreadsheet. So it's going to be, so the code is going to look very familiar to what you've seen already, but obviously hopefully it'll help tie some stuff together to show you some actual real world examples or real beneficial examples of putting the code and using it in Excel. So the first thing we need to do, well actually we're going to do a lot as we progress along, but we'll just jump straight in and obviously talk through the code as we do it. So as always, we need to do our subroutine. So we'll call it simple calc, for obviously simple calculator. And we need to then define our two variables to start with. So we're going to have two, which would be number1 and number2, or num1, num2 for short. So we'll do dim num1 as integer, and secondly we'll do num2 as integer. So because they're both integers, and to sort of help tidy up, keep our code nice and tidy, we can code them on the same line as we've done here, rather than doing a dim num2 again on the second row. So we've defined both of our numbers as integers. So the next thing we now need to do is obviously set what value is going to be for each number. So the first one, so we've got num1 is going to be equal to input box, and for this we'll say tell me number one. Cool, so that first one is going to say tell me number one, which in short basically says getting the user to provide the first number. And actually that's probably a better way of writing it. Let's just put first number, and then that. And then for the second one we can then do num2 is going to be equal to, again, input box, and we'll do second number, question mark, close brackets. And then once we've now gathered our two pieces of information, so as the user is doing this, they'll get the first input box, they'll put a number in, they'll then, having submitted that, they'll receive a second input box to provide the second number. So the next thing we now need to do is create a third variable, what's going to be our answer. So you don't have to do this, but I just like to stick with this process because it helps, again, keep everything nice and tidy. So we'll call it calc result is equal to num1 plus number 2. And then simply all we're going to do with that is we'll then go into our file, and we'll put, let's say sheet or sheets. So we want to go into sheet 1. We then want to go into the cells of 1, 1, and the value is going to equal, if I can find the equal sign, calc underscore result. As simple as that. So again, just to step through this, we've defined both of our numbers as integers, so whole numbers, no decimal places. We're going to have a pop-up box, what will give us obviously the ability to store the first number, and then the second input box will then give us the ability to store a second number. Once both of those variables have been captured, we can then obviously get our last result here, and we'll understand or be able to then do the calculation of number 1 plus number 2, what will be stored as calc result. And then lastly, we've defined where we want to paste the value, and obviously this is defined here. So this first cell in column or cell 1 or row 1 of column 1, and obviously that the value of that is then going to equal our result. What we can just do lastly again is put another, go into developer tab and do insert a button, and we'll do that. We'll obviously assign it to the simple calc subroutine, and let's just rename our button to calculator, like so. So what we now need to do is just simply run our code. So when we click our button, you can see we get our first input box, and as we wanted, it says first number question mark, so we can now provide a number. Let's go number 5. As we click OK, you can see that the first input box was closed and then replaced with our second. And so that first number has now been stored in our variable of num1. We've now got to our second number here, so let's do 5 again and do OK. And upon doing that, you can see that 5 plus 5 is obviously 10, and that has then been stored into our cell 1 at the top here. So we've been able to just create our very simple calculator. What we can do is just to play around with this a bit more, so touch on a couple of extra bonus things here, is when we're actually putting this value into our cell, at the moment obviously it just says the number 10. What we could do is add a bit more text here using the sort of strings, and let's say we wanted to say the result is, and then what obviously the result is. So all we now need to do here is in quotations we can put the calculator result is, let's do a little colon and do a quotation. So you can see we've done these two quotations, obviously telling it it's string, and I've just included a space at the end here just so there is a space between our string and the result. And then lastly I just need to do an and symbol after our little custom bit of string and the calculation just to stick it all together. So if I was to now run this again, let's do this time first number is 10 and the second number is 2 and do OK. You can see that we now have a nice bit of text here what actually instructs the user what they're seeing, and obviously they know that number is obviously the result of the calculation. And it now says the calculator result is 12, which we know is 10 plus 2. So for this basic calculator we've used the plus. If we want to change it and make it either multiplication, division or subtraction, all we need to do is just change this symbol in here, and let's go for multiplication this time. So let's change that into multiplication, or multiplication if I can say it. So this time if we do our calculator, select calculator, and we'll do 5 as the first number, we'll also do 5 as the second number, select OK, and you can now see our result has changed to 25. And again, we've still got that text in there just to show the user what they're actually seeing. Because obviously we're always referencing that same cell of cell 1-1, obviously the value is always going to override whatever the previous value was. So there you go, we've just now completed our first actual process and created a very basic calculator using Excel VBA. As we go through, there's a couple other little bits we need to go over in separate videos, but we'll eventually look to build a dynamic and obviously more advanced calculator than this one, and we'll be doing that, like I say, in a future video. So make sure you stay tuned for that. To ensure you see that video when it does come out, because that will be a good one, do ensure that you are subscribed to the channel and you've got that bell notification clicked so you're notified as soon as that and our other videos come out. If you did enjoy today's video, please don't forget to give the video a like, because it's greatly appreciated by me and obviously helps that all-important YouTube algorithm, and also just make sure that other people are able to see this video and learn something new if they weren't already aware of it. If you do have any questions, as always, please just drop a comment below this video and I'll get back to you as soon as I can. And lastly, thank you once again, and we'll see you in the next video.